Shalom. I'd like to start this lesson by saying Kal Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Racha Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone and to the hopeful elect pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going to be titled Bitter, Not Sweet. And I'm very into herbs and nutrition because I'm a trainer. And I know, if you go, if you eat things that are sweet, for example, right? Yes, they taste good, whatever. Majority of the time, it's not really that good for you, right? Now, nonetheless, you do need sugar in your body, right? But the thing is with sweet, it hits certain receptors in the brain, right? Dopamine levels increased. And the studies have been shown that when you take sugar, the sugar that they have now, this is artificial sugar, right? If you take sugar and eat it, it's more addictive than cocaine. It's about, I think, 4 times more addictive than cocaine, right? And it hits the same receptors in the brain that cocaine does, a drug, right? So sugar is a drug, only because, Esau has corrupted it and made it a lot more potent than it naturally is, right? So the reason why I'm talking about this is because the scriptures, they also refer to it as sweet, bitter, sweet as you first eat it, and bitter as it hits your stomach, right? Let's see if I can find it. Sweet, bitter. Okay, perfect. Revelation 10:9. And I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book, which is the scriptures. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up. So basically, indulge in the scriptures, eat the scriptures, be the scriptures, always be in the scriptures all the time, eat it up. And it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. And that's how it is. When you first get into the truth, right? That's when you first get into the truth. It's amazing. It's sweet. It's like, oh, you're talking about an Israelite. I'm part of the 12 tribes. I'm going to get this in the kingdom. all these women, et cetera, et cetera. It's sweet. But eventually it gets bitter because then you see how wicked you've been. All the rules you need to follow. Right? And it's only bitter because of the society that we're in. That's why it seems bitter. It's bitter because we're in a wicked kingdom. When we're in the kingdom, we're actually in our kingdom. It's not going to be bitter. It's going to be sweet because it's going to be in our minds. But it's bitter because we're not in rulership yet. So it's bitter, right? But the point of why I'm making this video is because bitter is not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends how you look at it. Whether it's on, it depends. It's really if the Most High is dealing with you on the right-hand side. If he's dealing with you on the right-hand side, then bitter can be made sweet, right, over time. Right? So Revelation 10:9, and I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. And he said unto me, take it and eat it up, and he shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey, right? And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and it was in my mouth sweet as honey, and as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter. So that's what happens. But what I want to go down to, so let's go to the word bitter. Right. Bitter, having a harsh taste, sharp, cutting, angry, full of animosity, cruel, bitterness, bitter, to split. What else? Pungent taste, acrid tasting. Right? So that's what bitter means. But now that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not always going to be a bad thing. And what I'm going to do, so I have this article, The Ultimate Guide to Bitters, because bitter food, especially herbs, is actually good for you, right? Like I said, when you eat that bitter thing, it's going to taste bad or going to have a pungent taste in your mouth in the beginning. And even in your belly, it might have a pungent feeling in your belly. But as over time, it has a sweet effect, right? So let me just go into the word sweet. pleasing to the senses, mind or feelings, having a pleasant disposition. Keep going down. Pleasant, agreeable, pleasure. So there you go. Pleasant, I didn't know it said this. Pleasant, not especially of taste. So it's not always about taste when it comes to sweet, right? To advise. So something that's pleasing, right? That's like the main objective of the word sweet, pleasing. Okay, so this article is talking about bitters, right? Now, okay, I'll read from here. This apothecary staple was first marketed in the 1700s as a remedy for common ailments such as digestion irregularities. Medicinal herbs and botanicals were preserved in alcohol and touted as a cure-all. So back then in the 1700s, they were using bitter herbs as medicine. And medicine you use when you're sick, right? And what happens when you use this medicine? You get healthy. And isn't that not pleasing to your body when you're healthy, to your mind? It's a pleasing thing, right? Now, at first, when you ingest it, it's not going to taste good. But over time, right, it becomes sweet. It becomes pleasing, right? Throughout the next few centuries, bitters would be used for everything from a stimulant for the troops in 1800s to a proposed treatment for malaria before making their way to the modern happy hour menu, right? Now, with emerging science to back up the benefits, bitters have once again gained popularity for aiding digestive health, curbing sugar cravings. So they use bitters to curb sugar cravings. It tells you about sugar, right? Boosting the immune system and even easing stress. So these are all good things. These are all pleasing things. But yet it's something that's bitter, right? Which is always shown as has a negative connotation, negative light to it. Right, it depends on your perspective. Depends who is depends on the situation, right? And this is just like in a carnal sense. We're not even talking about a spiritual sense yet. But you can see even carnally, it can still be a good thing, right? Okay, I'll read this too because not a lot of people know this. How is simply eating something bitter tasting better for your health? Scientists label bitter as one of the 7 basic tastes. Our body can, and that's for example, that's one taste bud that people don't don't use, which is why all these people are getting sick, right? Because the sweet, like I said before, these I was researching a lot of this because of my business that I have, or I had going back then. The sugars are not natural sugars; they are all made. They're all concentrated versions of natural sugar, right? They went to the atoms and made it more concentrated so it can sell more because it's a drug. Like I said, it's more addictive than cocaine, right? So what happens is that you flood your receptors with sugar, right? And you're feeding that receptor, but you're not feeding the bitter receptor, which actually aids to healing your body, right? Because the bitter herbs are connected with healing your body, repairing things, boosting things. But since people are so prone to sugar, that's why their bodies are so decrepit, right? They're not giving their body the stuff that it needs. And it's Esau's fault, of course, but you still need to know what you're eating. But since they're being flooded with all this sugar, right? Their bodies are getting weaker because they're not boosting. There's not a lot of things that start with sweet that boost your immune system, right? But the bitter, yes, right? And your immune system is your main defense against diseases. Anything really. It's your main defense against anything. If you're not eating those bitter things, therefore you're gonna have a weak immune system, right? So that's a little science there, right? Our body contains tons of receptors for bitter compounds. Is not only our mouth and tongue, but our stomach, gut, liver, and pancreas. This is mostly for protective reasons. Our bitter receptors are built as a warning to our body, as most dangerous and poisonous things are highly bitter tasting. So there you go. See, it depends which side you go on, right? Because also poisons are bitter tasting, right? So it depends if it's on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. It can heal or it can kill. Just like it talks about in, if you go, let's go, Slakia. In Revelation, it talks about the bitter water, wormwood. Okay, right there. Revelation 8:11, and the name of the star is called Wormwood, which is talking about the ICBM missile. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter, right? So the waters is going to be destroyed, right? One, the men are going to be destroyed, but also these missiles are going to hit waters too, right? So these oceans, the waters, are going to be made bitter. They're going to be made poisonous because of the nuclear radiation, right? Which is why I said depends. It can go either way, right? But the reason why this happened to them is because they don't fear the Most High. That's why this bitter was on the left-hand side, right? Now you have the right-hand side where it comes to healing, like I just read with, the bitter herbs. I'll keep reading actually till just read this a little bit. The stimulation of these bitter receptors promotes healthy digestion by increasing digestive secretions. This leads to better absorption of nutrients, natural detoxification of the liver, and thanks to the gut-brain connection, bitters can even have a positive effect on stress. So these are all pleasing things, but it's on the right-hand side. You see what I mean? It can go either way. But remember, bitters are not a primary treatment. Think of them as health boosts to help the body run more smoothly. From kick-starting the digestive tract to boosting the immune system, they shouldn't replace any treatment a doctor has prescribed. See, then that's where Esau comes. That's where they come in and say, no. Well, you shouldn't just rely on bitter herbs. Your doctor has to prescribe you pills and stuff. That's just Esau, right? They have to throw in some lies into their truth, right? So that's the point on that. I'm not going to keep reading it. If you want to see the article, I just typed in, actually, let's go back. Benefits of bitter herbs. It was the first one. Healthline. So we're going to go back into the scriptures. So Proverbs. So you can see it can go both ways, right? It just depends. Now, spiritually, if you don't have the fear of the Most High, that bitter thing is going to be negative to you. Just like I read it on Revelations, that bitter thing was poisonous, destructive, because the people that are going to catch those missiles, that 1/3 of men, those are the ones that didn't fear the Most High, right? Took the chip. The ones that fear the Most High, bitter things are not going to be poisonous to them. It might not taste good at first, but eventually it will heal them, right? It'll boost them. They'll get stronger. Proverbs 27:7, the full soul loaneth and honeycomb, but to the hungry soul every bitter thing is sweet, right? So the one that's hungry in the spirit, every bitter thing is made sweet because it heals you. Just like these scriptures, they heal you, right? Right. And you're gonna go to Isaiah 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Right? So that's just an example, like spiritually. They say that things in the Bible are actually bitter in the sense of in a negative connotation, like, oh, the Bible's weak, all that stuff is bad, Old Testament is outdated, the Most High loves everybody, all this stuff, right? They put a negative connotation, a bitter connotation onto the Bible, basically, right? And then they make the good things or the evil things sweet in the world. I can go off the list, like homosexuality, anything really. That's why this world's backwards, which is why it says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil. So they call evil things good, right? They call bitter things sweet, right? And good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. So everything's backwards. That put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, right? Everything's backwards here. Jeremiah 2:17 is the last one. Hast thou not procured this unto thyself, in that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power when he led thee by the way? So it's referring to when the Israel was in Egypt and the Most High led them out of Egypt, right? And now, what hast thou to do in the way of Egypt, to drink the waters of Sihor? Or what hast thou to do in the way of Assyria, to drink the waters of the river? Thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Now therefore, and see that it is an evil thing and bitter, that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord, power of hosts. Right? Now it's interesting that he said that, because they are going back to the waters that they were saved from, Egypt, Assyria, from the captivities, and drinking the waters, basically the doctrines, right? Right? Now, this is actually what's supposed to happen. If the Most High is dealing with you, your own wickedness shall correct you, right? Because the Most High will be dealing with you and showing you where you made a mistake, where you are wrong, right? You might have a brother say something to you, or he might just talk to you in your mind, Yahweh Shem Yahushai will be talking to you. Or he show you through a scripture. Something will happen when you have a revelation like, oh man, I messed up, right? And thy backsliding shall reprove thee. And these backslidings should reprove you. Like, you should be constantly being chastised in the spirit if the Most High is dealing with you, right? Know therefore and see that it is an evil thing and bitter, right? And you will see that these things are evil and bitter that you're probably doing, because the Most High is dealing with you, right? That thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power, and that my fear is not in thee, right? So he said that because the fear that he has of the Most High is not in them, which is why they don't know that they don't know that they're being wicked. They don't know that they're backsliding, right? They don't know, they can't see an evil thing, right? They don't know that the evil thing is actually bitter. They think that evil thing is actually sweet, right? They don't know that they've forsaken the Most High, because the Most High is not dealing with them. They don't have the fear of the Lord. That's the whole point of this. So if you have the fear of the Lord, right, that bitter thing can be sweet to you, pleasing unto you, right? But if you don't have the fear of the Lord, right, that bitter thing can be poisonous to you, right? So that's the point on that. I'm not gonna keep talking. I pretty much made my point, right? I hope this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect. I'd like to close out by saying, Ka Hala Yahweh, Ba Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba Hashem, Rakha Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles of the great millstone, and to the hopeful elect, pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth. Death and destruction to his wicked kingdom, and the 2/3 as well. Kwam Yasharala, Abad Babal, Shalom.